whether the parents themselves can read and write. But that is not the point in education. It is the concern you have over the child, the discipline you give the child at home concerning his education. That goes a long way to promote the child's education. If the parent is not there to monitor the child, do the homework, help the child, read. If the child is left alone to play video games, to watch movies, to watch the TV, to interact with friends in the neighborhood without control, without parental control, then there's a problem, because what kind of behavior that child sustains or emulates from the home and the community is transported into the classroom, and then it becomes a distraction or a disruption of the child's learning process. But this is where I think parents are very, very important. Setting a conducive home. I think if you walk around our school premises, you see a placard on which is written drug-free zone. How much do parents make sure that they provide the child with a drug-free home? This is very, very important. A drug-free neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Because a child who lives in a home and in a community where drug is practiced, the child is obviously going to pick up some of those elements, and they will affect the child's education.
And Mr. Shea, I'm very much interested in what you think about informal and formal education of our youngsters. As a teacher, then I can provide the formal education, but I'm not sure that I can provide that informal piece of education that's so very, very important. I don't even think I should. I think it's the role of someone else.
Yes. Like you rightly mentioned, we must categorize two forms of education. Formal education, Mr. Witten, and informal education. By informal education, we mean that form of education where the child gets an education through the values of the society in which the child lives.
Hi, welcome back to the Ed Brown Show. Here you saw that video example of some of the work that Dr. Williams is actually doing. Dr. Williams, tell us more about that relationship.
Yes, I will. You know, Mr. Witten and I talk about many things, but the thing that we talk about most is parenting, parent involvement. We're very, very concerned about that because we love our parents, and we know we have some great parents out there, but we really think that some of our parents are not doing all that they could do to help the youngsters be better people.
You can say that real loud.
Well, they're not doing all that they could
No,
do.
that's
And
quite true.
unfortunately, the television and all of the other technology now, that's raising our children. And Mr. Whitney and I are both grandparents. And we have had some success, I say great success, with our youngsters. And we want to just share with other parents some of the things that we have done, some of the things that they are not doing that maybe they should be doing. Right, Mr. Whitten?
That's correct. I am very proud to say that one of my 3 grandsons is graduating from high school this weekend, and I'll be traveling to West Virginia for the graduation, and I'm very excited, as well as the family, because we must celebrate our academic students just as we celebrate our athletic students. So I come from a family where there's balance in both areas, education and athletics, but we don't shy away from prompting our young people up in the family who do well academically. And I have a grandson who's done quite well, and we're so excited about him. And of course, young men, you know, his age, you know, they learn from his example. And I say to young men, you know, keep your heads up, keep your grades up, and keep your pants up. So with those 3 things in mind, our students can soar. We can learn to soar academically. And as you stated, all students aren't academic material, but our children need to learn agribusiness.
Right.
We need to be in touch with nature. I think our people have gotten so far away from nature that they think food grows out of a can.
Out of a machine too.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
But actually, that's a tough job. That's a good analysis. And all of us know that the home environment is so very important. How do you reach the parents?
Well, I think what's happening now, we are dealing with a generation of parents who aren't that far removed from being bad students when they were in school. And now they're parents. And if those parents didn't pay attention when they were students, and now they're parents, it's very difficult for the school system to do what it needs to do. Sometimes when I think about what Dr. Williams has been charged with doing, it's hard for him to get to his lesson plan if he's having discipline problems. And when we were growing up, that was not the case. I mean, the teacher never had a problem with discipline. You know, we may have students that some didn't learn as quickly as others, but it wasn't because there was chaos in the classroom.
Right.
So I think what we have to do is stop avoiding dealing with young parents who need to go back to school themselves in some form or another so they can be the type of parents that their children need. Because a lot of times the children will look to their parents, and if the parents haven't been paying attention, they can't lead. I mean, and what they'll do is mislead, and teachers become babysitters for their children. So somehow the schools, the churches, the community at large, we have to get to these parents and say, if you don't know, that's why evolutionary elders will come into play again, because we do know.
Well, Dr. Williams, what do you think is the answer there along the lines of getting parents involved? Sometimes the youngsters are in an environment where there's just one parent, and really there's a problem there with the one parent opposed to two parents, because maybe as far as the child is concerned, he goes with his father 1-2 weeks and go with the mother, and they may have different ideas about education.
I don't know, Ed, but I look for the one-parent family, usually headed by the female. I look for the effective one. And what I would do is that I would identify and then pair them. I mean, people get together to talk about all kinds of things. Parents need to get together and talk about effective parenting strategies. We need to stop blaming the teacher.
Right.
The teachers also need to stop blaming the parents. And the teachers need to stop blaming administration. We need to work collectively to make this thing work. I think we can do that. I think we can.
Just how would you start something like that? You start through the Civic Association, through the Parents Association, the PTA, or how would you go about that?
Well, Ed, I have tried something that hasn't worked, but I will not give up on it. I went to the ministerial community, and I said to ministers,
the churches.
Yes, we have problems, big problems, in our schools, in our homes. How are we going to solve it? Now, I can tell you about one experience I had, and this is what unfortunately, the pastor said to me, well, Gene, let me tell you one thing. I know what you're talking about, but I'm trying to grow my church. Since I'm trying to grow my church, that was the answer.
Right.
I said, oh my. Well, then I knew right then that he wasn't going to be of any help.
Right.
But I would not give up on that, because many of our youngsters go to church, and many of our parents, particularly those in Prince George's County, they go to churches. We have some of the biggest churches in the country here. We have the mega churches. And I'm not saying that some of the churches are not doing what they should be doing, but too few of them are doing it.
So you're saying that the answer is cooperation from the churches.
Right, right.
So that they can't really blame the schools, because right now they put all the weight on the teachers.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They really do. My child this and my child that. Well, but really, they themselves, if they get the right combination between the church, the schools, and the parents involved, they could solve the problem. But what's happening, they point at each other.
Pointing at each other.
And another thing, the parents aren't getting involved as parents should be involved. You know, if parents should be, they should take it upon themselves on the weekends to take their children to museums,